I really don't think there's any way to sugarcoat what we all just watched, because this was one of those games that hits you right in the gut as a 49ers fan. With everything on the line, at home, in a win and you get the one seed type of environment, this team came out and scored 3 points. 3. And I know the final score says 13-3, and I know some people will immediately point to that and say, well, at least the defense kept it close. But if you actually watched this game, you know it never felt close. Not for a single moment. From the opening drives, it felt like Seattle was dictating everything, and the 49ers were just trying to survive possession by possession. This was supposed to be the ultimate measuring stick game. The offense was red hot coming in, arguably the best unit in football. Brock Purdy was playing confident. Christian McCaffrey was doing everything. And the narrative all week was simple. Handle your business, secure the bye, and let the rest of the NFC come through Santa Clara. Instead, what we got was a complete reality check at the worst possible time. No rhythm, no flow, no sustained drives, and honestly, no answers. And that's the part that should concern you the most. Not just that they lost, but how they lost. As a fan, ask yourself this honestly. Did you ever feel like the 49ers were about to take control of this game? Even when it was still technically within reach, did it feel like momentum was shifting? For me, it never did. Seattle controlled the pace, controlled the ball, controlled the physicality, and made the 49ers look a step slow in every phase. That's not something we've said very often this season, which is why this performance feels so jarring. And before we even get into the X's and O's, the missed tackles, the protection issues, or the injuries, this chapter of the story is about expectation versus reality. This was a team playing for home field advantage, a first-round bye, and a clear path to the Super Bowl. Instead, they looked like a team that ran out of answers at the exact moment they needed them most. That doesn't mean the season is over, but it does mean the margin for error is now razor thin. I want to know where you're at right now. Do you think this was the most disappointing performance of the season? Yes or no? And do you feel like the score made this game seem closer than it actually was? Let me know in the comments, because how you answer that probably shapes how you see the rest of this playoff run. As we go deeper, we're going to break down exactly where this game slipped away, starting with a defense that looks better on the scoreboard than it did on the field. Before we get there, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support really does help keep this coverage going. If you just looked at the box score and saw that the 49ers only gave up 13 points, you might walk away thinking the defense did enough to win. But if you watched this game, you know that number is misleading. This was not a strong defensive performance, and in a lot of ways, it set the tone for everything that followed. Seattle didn't need to score a bunch of points because they controlled the game exactly how they wanted to, and the 49ers defense never found a way to flip the script. It starts with the fundamentals, and the fundamentals were not there. Missed tackles were a huge problem all night long. According to the tracking numbers, the 49ers missed tackles at a rate that simply isn't acceptable in a game of this magnitude. There were too many situations where Seattle should have been off the field, and instead, a runner slipped through an arm tackle or bounced outside for extra yards. Those extra yards add up, and more importantly, they extend drives. When you can't finish plays, you don't get off the field, and that's exactly what happened over and over again. One sequence really summed it up. You force a 3rd and long. You finally put Seattle behind the chains, and instead of getting off the field, they hand the ball off and rip off a big gain right through the heart of the defense. That's deflating. That's the kind of play that drains energy from the sideline and tells the other team they can do whatever they want. And from that point on, Seattle played with total confidence. They weren't scared of third downs. They weren't rushed. They were comfortable. The lack of takeaways is another glaring issue. This defense has been at its best when it creates chaos, when it flips momentum with a turnover or a big negative play. That never happened here. There was a moment where a loose ball was right there for the taking, a chance to steal a possession and maybe spark something, and it didn't happen. Instead, Seattle kept the ball, kept bleeding the clock, and kept the 49ers offense standing on the sideline, getting cold. And that's the other part people overlook. Time of possession matters, especially in a game like this. The longest, most methodical drives of the night all belong to Seattle. Even when they weren't scoring, they were winning. They were wearing down the defense, shortening the game, and putting more pressure on an offense that was already struggling. By the time the fourth quarter rolled around, it felt like the 49ers were chasing the game without ever really being in it. So let me ask you this. What bothered you more in this game? The missed tackles or the inability to get off the field on third down? Drop your answer in the comments, because that tells a lot about where you think this defense really is heading into the playoffs. And if you appreciate these kinds of honest breakdowns, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and every bit of support helps. Because as frustrating as the defense was, the reality is this game was decided by what happened on the other side of the ball. And when we talk about how Seattle completely shut down one of the hottest offenses in football, that's where things get even more concerning. This is where the game was truly lost, because no matter how you slice it, this offense getting held to 3 points is unacceptable. Coming into this matchup, the 49ers offense wasn't just good, it was on a roll. They were moving the ball on everyone, converting third downs, finishing in the red zone, and playing with confidence. And then Seattle shows up and takes all of that away. From the very first series, it was clear the 49ers were uncomfortable, and they never found a way to adjust. The biggest issue was that Brock Purdy never had a chance to settle in. The pocket was constantly collapsing, pressure was coming from multiple angles, and Seattle's pass rush stayed disciplined while still being aggressive. There was no easy rhythm throws, no quick confidence builders, and no point where it felt like Purdy could just breathe and play his game. When a quarterback is speeding up mentally, everything else falls apart, and that's exactly what we saw. The running game didn't help either, and that's something you rarely say about this team. One rushing first down all night tells the story. The 49ers were constantly behind the chains, stuck in second and long and third and long situations, which plays right into the hands of a defense like Seattle's. When you can't stay on schedule, your playbook shrinks, and the defense can tee off. Christian McCaffrey still put up receiving numbers, but his impact was controlled, not feared. Third downs were a disaster. The 49ers couldn't sustain drives, couldn't flip field position, and couldn't give their defense any rest. And when they finally did get a chance in the red zone, a moment where the game could have completely changed, it slipped away. A tipped pass, a ball that ends up intercepted, and suddenly what could have been a one-score game late in the fourth quarter is essentially over. That play wasn't just a turnover, it was a momentum killer. This is also where the chess match comes into play. Seattle clearly came in with a plan, and they executed it perfectly. They took away the middle of the field, they mixed coverages, and they forced the 49ers to be patient without ever giving them a rhythm. It felt like Seattle was always one step ahead, and the 49ers never countered in a meaningful way. So here's the question for you. What do you think was the biggest offensive problem in this game? The protection, the play calling, or the execution? Pick one and explain why in the comments. And if you're still here, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're grinding toward 1,000 subscribers, and if you want playoff coverage that doesn't pull punches, you're in the right place. Because as bad as the offensive performance was, there's another layer to this game that we have to talk about, and that's the physical toll, the injuries, and how thin the margin for error has become heading into the postseason. One thing I don't want this to turn into is an excuse fest, because Seattle earned this win, but it would be dishonest not to talk about the physical toll this game took and what the 49ers were dealing with going into it. This team was playing its second straight high-leverage game on a short week, and it looked like it. The energy wasn't the same, the sharpness wasn't the same, and when you combine fatigue with injuries, the margin for error disappears fast. The scariest moment of the night was obviously Brock Purdy getting sandwiched between two defenders and going down hard. When you see your quarterback folded up like that, your heart stops for a second. The good news is that it was described as a stinger, and everything points toward him being available. But even if he's fine, that hit was symbolic of how the night went. He was under pressure, taking hits, and never truly protected the way he needs to be for this offense to function at a high level. Up front, the absence of Trent Williams loomed large. There's just no way around it. When he's not out there, everything becomes harder. Protection breaks down quicker, the run game loses its edge, and the offense becomes much easier to defend. Asking replacements to hold up against a fast, physical Seattle front was a tall order, and it didn't go well. You could see it on nearly every drop back. On the defensive side, the injuries continue to pile up. Players were in and out, clearly banged up, and it showed in the tackling and pursuit. When depth players are forced into extended roles, especially late in the season, the difference is noticeable. That's not an indictment of effort, it's just reality in the NFL. Missing key pass rushers and dealing with lingering injuries across the lineup has slowly chipped away at what this defense can do, snap after snap. So here's where I want your take. What worries you more heading into the playoffs? The health of this team or the way they were outplayed in this game? Drop your answer in the comments, because those are two very different concerns. And if you haven't already, take a second to like the video and subscribe. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and staying locked in together matters even more this time of year. Because now the conversation shifts from what went wrong to what comes next. The loss changed the path, changed the margin for error, and put the 49ers in a position where every game from here on out is do or die. Now, this is where perspective matters, because as ugly as that performance was, the season didn't end at Levi's Stadium. What did change is the path. Instead of sitting at home with a bye and home field advantage, the 49ers are now staring down a road-heavy playoff run where there's no room for another night like that. Every game is an elimination game, and the opponent will not matter if the execution looks anything like what we just saw. The most likely scenario has the 49ers opening on the road, and whether that's Philadelphia or Chicago, the challenge is very different than what it could have been. If it's the Eagles, you're talking about a physical defense, a tough environment, and a team that thrives on mistakes. If it's the Bears, there's familiarity and some confidence after the recent win, but going into a cold, hostile stadium in the playoffs is never simple. Either way, the 49ers don't get the benefit of easing into the postseason. They have to be ready immediately. The frustrating part is that we've already seen this team beat playoff-caliber opponents. They've beaten Seattle earlier in the season. They've beaten the Rams. They've beaten Chicago. This isn't a talent issue. This isn't a roster that suddenly forgot how to play football. It's about execution, discipline, and responding when the lights are the brightest. That's why this loss hurts so much, because it came at a moment when you expected the best version of this team to show up. What this game did more than anything is expose the areas that have to be cleaned up right now. The offense has to get back to staying on schedule, protecting the quarterback, and finishing drives. The defense has to tackle better, get off the field, and create at least one momentum-changing play per game. Those aren't massive overhauls, they're corrections. But in the playoffs, corrections have to happen fast, because you don't get a second chance. So, I'll leave you with this. Do you still believe this team can make a deep playoff run? Yes or no? And if so, what has to change first for you to feel confident again? I really want to hear where you're at mentally after this one, so let me know in the comments. If you've made it this far, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support is huge as we head into playoff football. No matter where the 49ers go from here, we're going to be here breaking it all. Down with you, every step of the way.